At 6:40 in the morning, my husband looked at the coffee I had made for him and said, "I don't want to spend the rest of my life watching you get older." That was how Richard ended 32 years of marriage. Not with shouting, not with a fight, not even with guilt. He stood in our kitchen wearing new white sneakers, a tight gray polo, and cologne I had never smelled on him before. His hair was damp from a shower he took too early. His phone sat face down beside his hand, lighting up every few seconds like it had a pulse. I had made his coffee the way I had made it since 1991. 1 sugar, a splash of cream, in the chipped blue mug we bought on our first vacation, back when a motel with a view of the water felt like luxury. He did not touch it. I remember staring at the thin line of steam rising from the mug. I remember the hum of the refrigerator. I remember the neighbor's sprinkler tapping against the fence outside. I asked, "Is something wrong?" Richard's face did not change. He said, "I want a divorce." The words landed so cleanly that for a second I thought I had misheard him. "What?" "I've outgrown this," he said. "This?" He looked around the kitchen like the walls had insulted him. The marriage, the routine, all of it. I stood with one hand on the counter. My fingers were wet from rinsing his spoon. He took a breath, like he had practiced the next part in the mirror. "You're comfortable, Evelyn, predictable, but I can't pretend anymore. You're too old to make me feel alive." I did not cry. I think that disappointed him. His eyes searched my face, waiting for me to break open, to beg, to ask what I could fix. But something inside me had gone quiet. Not numb, not calm. Quiet. I looked at the coffee instead. That was the part that cut the deepest. He had waited until I made it for him. He watched me measure the sugar. He watched me warm the cream so it would not cool the coffee too fast. He let me do one more small act of care before telling me I had become a burden to look at. His phone buzzed again. This time, the screen shifted enough for me to see the name before he snatched it up. Maddie Fitlife Yellow Heart. He turned the phone against his chest like a teenager. I said nothing. That was the first time Richard mistook my silence for weakness. It would not be the last. I found out about Maddie in pieces, the way you find mold behind a wall, one soft spot at a time. First came the clothes. Richard started wearing compression shirts to the grocery store, even though his stomach pushed against them in a way that made him tug at the hem every few minutes. He bought white sneakers that looked too young for his careful walk. He ordered protein powder that tasted like chalk and left the scoop on the counter for me to wash. Then came the teeth-whitening strips. Then the smartwatch he could not work. Then the strange laughter from the garage during video calls, too loud, too bright. The laugh of a man trying to prove he was still interesting. Maddie was 26. I did not know that because Richard told me. I knew because she posted everything. She was a fitness influencer, or at least she called herself one. Her pictures showed luxury apartment gyms, marble counters, rooftop pools, and rented cars angled just right. Her captions were full of words like growth, discipline, alignment, and abundance. Under one of Richard's comments, she wrote, "Distinguished energy hits different." He had liked it within 1 minute. After that, he changed faster. Not better, just faster. He started asking if I had considered doing something about the gray. He bought me wrinkle cream as a joke and left it on my bathroom sink with a little bow. When our daughter Nora came over one afternoon, he said your mother gave up on herself years ago, like I was not standing right there folding dish towels. Nora froze. I kept folding. Our son Wesley called the next day, angry in that quiet way he had inherited from me. "Dad said he still has life left in him," he said. "What does that even mean?" "It means he wants an audience," I replied. That was the truth. Maddie was not the real change. Richard had always had vanity tucked under his shirts like a second skin. He had always liked compliments. He had always stood a little straighter when younger women smiled at him in restaurants. But Maddie applauded his cruelty. That was what made him bold. One Sunday, Nora and Wesley came for dinner. I had roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans with almonds, and the lemon cake Wesley loved as a boy. Richard arrived late from a workout, smelling like mint and gym rubber. Halfway through dinner, while Nora was passing the rolls, he put down his fork. "I don't want anyone hearing this from your mother later and getting the wrong idea," he said. My stomach tightened. Wesley looked at him. "Hearing what?" Richard folded his hands like he was leading a board meeting. "Evelyn and I are divorcing. I'm choosing happiness." Nora's face went pale. I felt heat rise in my neck, but I kept my napkin in my lap. Richard looked at me, waiting again. I gave him nothing. He leaned back. "It's not easy, but life is short. Sometimes you wake up and realize you've been living half alive." Nora whispered, "Dad." He ignored her. After dinner, while Nora cried in the driveway and Wesley stood beside her with his jaw locked, Richard posted a picture of a sunset from our back porch. His caption said, "New beginnings require courage." 30 seconds later, Maddie left a heart emoji. I saw it because Nora shoved her phone into my hand with tears in her eyes. "Mom, who is this?" I handed the phone back carefully. I said, "I need to check something." I went upstairs to the hall bathroom, locked the door, sat on the closed toilet lid, and opened our banking app. That was where Richard's performance began to turn into evidence. For most of our marriage, I had handled the household finances. Not because Richard could not do math. He had worked in commercial insurance for 29 years. He understood numbers when they served him, but bills bored him. Taxes annoyed him. Retirement accounts made his eyes glaze over unless someone said the word balance. So I paid the mortgage. I tracked the insurance. I reviewed the statements. I made extra payments for 14 years so we could own the house before retirement. Richard used to joke that I was the family accountant, like it was cute that I kept his life from collapsing. That night in the bathroom, I stopped feeling cute. I found the first transfer under a dull label. Consulting investment. $3,000. Then another. Wellness startup deposit. $5,500. Then a credit card charge at a hotel downtown on a night Richard said he had stayed late helping a coworker. Then a lease application fee. Then a cosmetic clinic charge. Then a transfer for $19,000 marked Maddie Brand Launch. My hands did not shake. That scared me a little. I took screenshots. I forwarded nothing to myself from our home computer because our printer was connected to Richard's phone and I did not trust anything in that house anymore. The next morning, I drove to the public library. I wore a plain cardigan, carried an old canvas tote, and printed statement after statement while a man 2 computers over watched fishing videos without headphones. The printer made soft clicking sounds as my marriage came out page by page. Wire confirmations, credit card charges, hotel deposits, lease payments, messages attached to transfers. One memo had a heart in it. One said, "Proud of you, M." Another said, "For our future." I bought a brown accordion folder from the drugstore and labeled it taxes. That was the kind of label Richard would never open. By the 3rd week, I found the transaction that changed everything. It came from Richard's retirement account. Not a joint checking account, not a credit card. His retirement. The money went to an LLC called Bright Shape Media. I stared at that name until the library lights buzzed above me. Bright Shape Media had no history I could find. No real website, just a landing page with a logo that looked like it had been made in 15 minutes. No client list. No office address beyond a mailbox service next to a nail salon. But Richard had sent it money. A lot of money. That was when I stopped thinking of Maddie as just a mistress. She was not only taking my husband, she was taking notes. I met Patricia Vale 3 days later. Her office was on the 5th floor of a brick building downtown, with a view of the courthouse and a coffee machine that sounded like it hated everyone. Patricia was in her 60s, with silver hair cut short and glasses on a chain around her neck. She did not gasp when I told her what Richard said in the kitchen. She did not say, "You poor thing." She did not ask if I was sure I wanted a divorce. She read the documents. That was all. For almost 20 minutes, the only sounds were paper sliding, her pen tapping once, and the air conditioner clicking on. Finally, she looked up. "Do not confront him about the money," she said. I blinked. I wasn't planning to. Good. Do not warn him. Do not threaten Maddie. Do not send angry texts. Do not make speeches. Do not try to shame him online. Men like your husband think silence means weakness. She closed the folder. Let him think that. I felt something settle in me. Not peace. Purpose. Patricia explained that Richard's spending might matter. His transfers might matter. His attempts to move money might matter, but only if I kept records and let him keep exposing himself. He is arrogant, she said. That is useful. Careful people are harder. Quote, for the first time in weeks, I almost smiled. That became my rule. Let him keep talking. Let him keep spending. Let him keep believing I was too broken to understand what was happening. When I got home that evening, Richard was in the kitchen pouring himself sparkling water from a brand he had never bought before. Maddie needs help with temporary rent, he said, as if he were talking about a niece going through a hard time. I hung my keys on the hook. Does she? She's building something real. You wouldn't understand. Starting over takes investment. I looked at him. For 32 years, I would have asked questions. How much? From where? What about taxes? What about the credit line? Did you read the lease? Instead, I said, would you like the divorce paperwork mailed to your office or served here? His mouth twitched. For 1 second, he looked annoyed. Then he laughed. You're finally being reasonable. I nodded and walked past him. I did smile that time, but only after I reached the laundry room and closed the door. Richard grew crueler because I stopped reacting. He wanted tears. He wanted me to chase him from room to room asking why I was not enough. He wanted proof that he had the power to ruin me. When I gave him none, he started performing louder. He took Maddie to the wine bar where we had celebrated our 20th anniversary. Nora saw the photo first. 2 wine glasses, a man's hand resting near one of them. The watch I had bought Richard when he retired. The caption said, "Some people make you feel young again." I stared at the watch longer than the glasses. I had saved for it. Richard had told me, I'll wear it forever. Forever had lasted 11 months and one 26-year-old with a ring light. After that, Maddie posted more. The lake trail where I had rehabbed after knee surgery. The hardware store where the clerk still called us the Hearts. A passenger seat photo with Richard's knee in the corner. A short video of him laughing off camera while she stirred some green drink and called him my favorite disciplined man. My children started pulling away from him. He blamed me. One night, Wesley called at 10:48 p.m. I remember the time because I was sorting old insurance folders at the dining room table, and the house was so quiet that the ringtone made me jump. Mom, he said slowly, did Dad really say you were refusing to let him retire? I stopped moving. What? He said you're trying to take everything. He said you're punishing him because he wants to be happy. He said he may have to keep working because of you. I looked at the pile of documents in front of me. Richard had already withdrawn money early. He had signed things I had not seen until after. He had spent marital money on Maddie and called it investment. Yet he was telling our children I was the thief. That hurt more than the woman. More than the posts. More than the wrinkle cream. Because he was not only leaving the marriage, he was rewriting it while I was still inside it. I said, Wesley, I have not asked you or Nora to take sides. I know. I won't start now. His voice softened. Do you have proof? I glanced at the accordion folder labeled taxes. Yes, I said, but I'm not using my children as messengers. He was quiet for a moment. Then he whispered, I'm sorry, Mom. After we hung up, I sat at the table with every lamp off, except the small one near the window. For the first time, I wanted to call Richard into the room and lay every page in front of him. I wanted to watch his face change. I wanted him to know I was not the foolish old woman he had decided I was. But Patricia's voice came back to me. Let him keep talking. So I did. I did not sabotage Richard. I did not touch his accounts. I did not call Maddie's sponsors. I did not warn the apartment building. I did not do anything illegal, dramatic, or loud. I did something much colder. I stopped protecting him from paperwork. For decades, I had been the reminder. Richard, the insurance renewal is due Friday. Richard, that credit card has a limit. Richard, don't use that account for early withdrawals. Richard, the tax form is missing. Richard, read before you sign. Richard, that automatic payment failed. Richard, the mortgage cleared. Richard, the roof estimate is in the drawer. He called it nagging when he was annoyed. He called it help when it saved him. Now I stopped. The first thing he missed was a payment on a credit line after Maddie convinced him to put a wellness retreat package on it. He complained about the late fee for 2 days. I said, that's unfortunate. He forgot to update an automatic transfer after moving money to cover her apartment deposit. I said, you should call the bank. He signed a lease guarantee for Maddie's luxury apartment without reading the clause that made him responsible if she disappeared. I said nothing because I only learned about it when Patricia found the paperwork later. He withdrew more retirement funds early and told me, we'll sort out the tax mess later. I looked at him across the kitchen. We? He rolled his eyes. Don't be difficult. By then, Patricia had already filed the right documents. I had separated what I could legally separate. I had changed passwords where I was allowed. I had opened accounts in my own name. I had pulled my credit report and frozen what needed freezing. Richard was busy posting freedom online. I was busy making sure his freedom could not drag me behind it. Mediation happened on a rainy Thursday. Richard arrived in a navy blazer too tight in the shoulders and shoes too shiny for the weather. He looked like a man dressed by someone who cared more about the photo than the fit. Through the window, I saw Maddie in the parking lot. She sat in her car wearing oversized sunglasses, holding an iced drink, filming herself with one hand. I could not hear her, but I could see her mouth moving around the same soft, fake smile she used in her videos. Richard came in smelling like her perfume. He did not look at me when he sat down. I want a clean break, he said. Patricia opened my accordion folder. It was not labeled taxes anymore. She had replaced it with a proper file label. Dissipation review. Richard's attorney shifted in his chair. Richard frowned. What is that supposed to mean? Patricia slid copies across the table. Before we discuss a clean break, she said, we'll need to discuss dissipation of marital assets. Richard laughed once. It was small and ugly. Come on, this is ridiculous. Patricia did not blink. We have transfers marked consulting investment, wellness startup deposit, temporary relocation help, Maddie brand launch, and multiple payments to Bright Shape Media. His face changed at that last name. Not much. But enough. You went through my private finances? He snapped at me. I kept my hands folded. Patricia answered for me. Marital funds are not private when they are being moved during divorce proceedings. Richard looked at his attorney. His attorney looked at the papers. That was when Richard realized I had not come to mediation to cry. I had come with math. He tried to say Maddie was an investment. Patricia asked for business documents. He had none. He mentioned branding. She asked for contracts. He had none. He said Bright Shape Media was in development. She asked for client records. He had none. All he had were texts, a logo, screenshots, receipts, a lease, and a series of transfers with hearts in the memo lines. I barely spoke. That made him angrier than any speech could have. This is why I left, he said, turning toward me. You're cold. I looked at him for the first time that day. "No," I said. "I'm informed." The room went quiet. His phone lit up on the table. He tried to turn it over, but Patricia had already seen enough to pause. Richard looked down. So did I. The message preview was from Maddie. "Tell her to stop being bitter. We need that money this week." Richard grabbed the phone too late. His attorney closed his eyes. Patricia made one small note on her legal pad. "I will remember that tiny motion for the rest of my life." It was the moment Richard's fantasy stopped looking romantic and started looking expensive. The divorce finalized 3 months later. I got the house. The paid-off house. The house Richard said I needed because I was clinging to the past. I got my protected pension. I got half of what remained. I got clean credit. I got legal distance from the mess he had made. Most of all, I got the right to stop fixing his life. Richard got Maddie. He got a rented luxury apartment with a balcony she loved to film from. He got a leased sports car he could barely afford. He got early withdrawal penalties. He got children who answered him politely but did not linger on the phone. He also got the story he wanted. He told mutual friends I had taken the house because I needed something to cling to. Maddie posted a picture from the balcony. Her caption said, "New chapter with someone who knows my worth." Richard commented, "Always." I saw it while sitting on the back porch of the house he had lost. The late afternoon sun was hitting the maple tree. The boards under my feet were warm. A cardinal landed on the fence and tilted its head like it had better sense than most people I knew. I deleted the app. 3 weeks later, Nora sent me a screenshot. Her message said, "Mom, have you seen Maddie's page?" I had not. Because I meant it when I deleted the app. But the screenshot was blank. Her account was gone. Not private. Gone. At first, I thought she had blocked everyone connected to us. But soon the calls started. Not to me. To Richard. The business website for Bright Shape Media went down. The apartment concierge told him Maddie had moved out 2 days earlier. The furniture rental company wanted payment. The sports car lender had started calling about late installments tied to the image package Maddie had convinced him he needed. Bright Shape Media had no real clients. The brand launch had not launched. The luxury backgrounds had been rented. The apartment was leased under terms Richard had guaranteed. Maddie had not been building a future with him. She had been building an exit. I learned most of this from Nora, who learned it from Wesley, who got one long, messy voicemail from Richard at 1:15 in the morning. I did not listen to it. I did not need to hear the panic to understand the shape of it. Richard drove to Maddie's apartment himself. The unit was empty, except for one gym bag sitting in the bedroom closet. Inside was his old retirement account folder. The one he had proudly shown her to prove he was serious. On top of it was a sticky note. "You said you wanted to feel young. Hope it was worth it." When Nora told me that, I had to sit down. Not because I felt sorry for him. Because for one sharp second, I understood that Maddie had studied Richard the same way I had studied the finances. The difference was I had studied them to protect myself. She had studied them to empty him out. Richard called me that night. I watched his name appear on my phone for the first time since the divorce. For years, that name had meant dinner timing, grocery lists, doctor reminders, car trouble, missing files, travel plans, and ordinary life. Now it meant nothing. I had to answer. I let it ring. When the voicemail appeared, I deleted it unheard. His collapse was not dramatic. No police chase. No public screaming. No big scene where everyone pointed and laughed. Just consequences, one plain envelope at a time. The leased car was repossessed in front of the gym where Maddie used to film. He had to stand on the sidewalk while 2 men loaded it onto a truck. Someone from his old networking group saw it happen and pretended not to. His credit cards hit their limits. He moved into a short-term rental near a frontage road where trucks roared past before dawn. He took consulting jobs he once said were beneath him. He asked old friends for temporary help too many times, so invitations stopped coming. Nora still answered his texts, but her replies were short. Wesley met him for coffee once a month and always had somewhere to be after 40 minutes. Richard tried blaming Maddie. Then me. Then the attorneys. Then the system. But everyone remembered how proud he had been. That was the part he could not erase. He had not slipped quietly into a mistake. He had announced it, posted it, smiled through it. Let his children watch him treat their mother like a worn-out chair he was replacing with something sleeker. 6 months after the divorce, I saw him at a garden center. I was wearing linen pants, gold earrings, and a cream sweater I had bought for myself without checking whether Richard would call it practical. My gray hair was cut into a sharp bob that brushed my jaw. I had gone there for Rosemary, but I ran into Adrian, a widowed architect from the museum volunteer group. Adrian was showing me a small glazed pot he thought would match my back porch tiles. He had kind eyes and careful hands. He did not lean too close. He did not perform charm like a salesman. He just made me laugh. That was when I saw Richard at the end of the aisle. He was holding a bag of potting soil like he had forgotten why he picked it up. His face was thinner. His shirt hung wrong. There were dark marks under his eyes, and his left hand was bare. No wedding ring. Not that it mattered, but I noticed. For a moment, none of us moved. Adrian glanced toward him, then back at me. "Someone you know?" he asked. "Yes," I said. "Someone I used to." Richard heard that. I could tell because his mouth tightened. He looked at my hair, my earrings, my relaxed shoulders, Adrian beside me, the rosemary in my cart, the small pot in my hand. He looked at me like he was seeing the future he thought belonged to him. I did not rush away. I did not introduce them. I did not explain myself. I simply turned back to Adrian and said, "I think the blue one works better." That night, Richard came to the house. I knew it was him before I opened the door. The porch light caught the shape of his shoulders through the glass, the same shoulders I had rubbed after long work days, the same shoulders that had turned away from me in our kitchen while his phone lit up with another woman's name. He held grocery store flowers. Not my favorite flowers. Not white tulips or yellow roses. The cheap mixed bunch he used to buy when he forgot anniversaries and wanted credit for remembering late. I opened the door but left the chain on. His eyes were red. "Evelyn," he said. I waited. Maddie used me. I looked at the flowers. "She's gone," he said. "She took money. She lied about the business, the apartment, the car, the launch, all of it. None of it was real." His voice cracked on the last word. Real. I almost laughed, but not because it was funny. He had called our life boring. He had called our routine dead. He had called my loyalty predictable, like it was a flaw. Now he wanted real. "I made a mistake," he said. "I was confused." I said nothing. She manipulated me. Still nothing. "I miss our life." There it was. Not me. Our life. The house, the meals, the clean towels, the organized taxes, the adult children coming for Sunday dinner, the quiet mornings, the retirement he never had to understand, because I carried the details. He missed the life after he lost the woman who built it. "She took everything from me," he whispered. I looked at him for a long moment. "No, Richard," I said. "You traded loyalty for youth. She just understood the price better than you did." He flinched like I had slapped him. For once, I let the silence stay. He looked past me into the hallway. I knew what he saw. The polished floor. The framed picture of Nora and Wesley at the lake. The lamp he never liked but never replaced. The small table where I kept fresh flowers now, not apology flowers, but ones I bought because I enjoyed looking at them. "Can I come inside?" he asked. I looked behind me at the home I had saved. The home he treated like a consolation prize. The home I had paid toward, cleaned, repaired, protected, and finally kept. Then I looked back at him. You already left it. I closed the door gently, not slammed. That was what made it worse. The aftermath was simple. Richard did not magically recover. He downsized again, took more consulting work, and learned slowly that no one was required to soften the consequences he chose. Nora and Wesley stayed civil with him, but distance settled in where trust used to be. I kept the house. I hosted Sunday dinners without tension. I traveled twice that year, once to Maine and once to Santa Fe. Adrian and I took things slowly, and I liked that. I did not need rescue. I did not need to feel young. I only needed to stop apologizing for getting older. I used to think being loyal meant standing beside someone no matter how carelessly they treated what we built, but silence taught me something different. Some doors do not close because you are angry. They close because, after the betrayal, the humiliation, and the waiting, you finally understand that peace is not something you beg for. It is something you protect. If this story pulled you in, stay with the channel for more stories about quiet people who were underestimated until the truth finally caught up. Like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments which moment made Richard's downfall feel deserved.